Mr. Malema, we've seen Parliament try to get underway to vote in a new president into this Parliament. Once more descended into chaos. Are you disappointed by what we've seen over the past couple of days?
Yes, I'm disappointed by the fact that people don't want to comply with the instructions from the AU. We are the organ of the AU. We must comply with the AU principle on rotation. If we resolve the issue of rotation, we're done. Because elections will then be very small item on the bigger agenda of trying to correct the wrongs of the continent. Because we'll know the next in line is this region. They must go and sort themselves out. And then they'll come and present to us who's next. That's all. So by refusing to comply with that rotation, you are consuming a lot of time on elections, which is unnecessary. Because if the agenda is to unite the continent, we must apply the principles that are uniting the continent.
Why is this rotational system so important? Roger was saying that, elections must just get underway as normal. People from all the African countries need to vote together, and this rotational system really is not that important, but rather to see elections get underway. Why should this rotation system be implemented?
It's a principle that will unify the continent. If you have not taken anyone's money and you are not serving other interests, you cannot disagree with a principle that will unite the continent. Since the establishment of this PAP, the North and the South have never occupied the position of president. Roger himself, occupied it twice. Came in as acting president, elected president first term, second term president. He kept on saying the next election we are implementing rotation. Every time we come here, he tells us the same thing. And we have been so polite, we have been so modest, we have been understanding. And today when they came and started to make fool of us, we then had to show them that we can as well degenerate like them and take them to task about this matter. The AU wrote a letter, said any election that is not based on rotation, it will be illegal. They ignore it. They say it's an opinion. But Roger forgets that this clerk who's presiding over this house, he suspended him illegally. We wrote to the same legal counsel of the AU. They wrote a letter back and said he must be reinstated. And they wrote that's an AU opinion. It was binding on us. We reinstated the clerk. The clerk wrote a second letter now to ask for an opinion. The legal counsel said to him, we are the only authority when it comes to the organs of the AU. And the letter we wrote earlier is binding, you must follow it. Anything outside that will be illegal. They are insulting the AU, they're insulting the letter of the AU. They say we don't need AU, we are PAP, we can do our own thing. But they're an organ of AU and they must comply with AU principles.
Will you be asking for the AU once more to intervene? They've tried to intervene through this letter saying that the rotation system needs to get underway. You as MPs in this parliament, will you be reaching out to the AU?
We want the clerk to write to one, agenda this to October. Two, ask the AU to facilitate the reconvening of this meeting. Three, they must come and preside over the elections. And they will tell us when they read the procedure what is going to be followed in those elections. Four, Mali must not sit here because AU has just disqualified them. Therefore, they don't qualify to sit in PAP. Some of the delegates, the candidates here, have been using money, and that's why they don't resign. They've taken people's monies. Why would we have a problem when the two of us are disagreeing and we say, let's call someone senior to come and help us to have an understanding of how we should proceed? They refuse. They've parked a jet there for 2 weeks at OR Tambo. How do you park a jet at OR Tambo for 2 weeks? They went to Mercedes-Benz to rent the V-classes. They've been asking for Mercedes-Benz to organize Maybachs for them to drive delegates around. So they are not listening because they've taken people's monies. And anything reasonable, they don't want to comply with it. Why would you defy AU if you are part of the organs of the AU?
Where does this leave African unity? When this parliament was opened this year, Thandi Modise called on for African unity, and the scenes which have played out over the past couple of days, just for a number of South Africans and Africans, it seems as if, it's just a dream.
In the same speech, Thandi Modise spoke about rotation. And when she spoke about rotation, they mumbled. They were on the edge of disrupting her, because that's how they are. They don't listen to anyone. We will achieve African unity. It must be unity of purpose, unity in action, based on principles that will unite the continent. Not mechanical unity, not artificial unity for the sake of unity. It is out of this robustness that African brothers will appreciate each other, and they will be in a position to know one another. And it is out of this that unity of Africa will come. So we want unity that comes out of serious engagements, and not unity that is informed by money. That I got the money and therefore let me keep quiet. That's not us.
There's been talk of francophone African countries trying to hold on to this position, and it seems as if Anglophone Africa and Francophone Africa seem to be at war with each other. What do you have to say to those comments?
Well, we are not at war with Francophones. They seem to be in war with us. One of them said this parliament must be relocated. And when he was asked, as we were shouting at each other there, where are you relocating parliament? We said, no, we can take it to France. Because they see themselves as French. They worship the symbols of France. And we are not worshippers of the symbols of Britain. We carry no mandate of Britain. We don't see ourselves as British. Even under colonialism, we have never seen ourselves as British. So it's a problem that we need to deal with. But what makes me appreciate that there is some light at the end of the tunnel is when they say we are the same generation, malema. Let's not be divided on the basis of those who came before us. That's when we now start to establish, a process of engagement and saying, guys, we cannot be divided based on the language of the colonialists. We must be divided on ideas which are trying to resolve the problems that Africans are facing. Not because I speak French, not because I speak English, but because we are seeking the best solution for the continent. If we can agree on rotation, I'm telling you now, the issue of elections will be insignificant. Every time we come here in an assembly, we have a problem of elections. There's always a fight on elections. There's always a fight on rotation. Roger, who has been central, suppressing us here, So now he's gone, and he wants to lead from the grave. We're not going to allow that.
Lastly, Mr. Malema, what do you have to say to concerns that, this image has created for the African continent as people who can't come together and as people who can't see eye to eye?
It's not true. We have come together. We are disagreeing. And we're disagreeing to agree. And they will find solution, and that solution will be African solution, and it will be a lasting solution. Parliament, by its own nature, it must be robust. It must engage. We must avoid, by all means, violence, especially when it's meted against women. We ought to be very sensitive about that. But the robustness of the debates, which sometimes come across as if it's a fight, it's necessary if we are going to build a parliament with biting teeth. That's what we are trying to do here. We are still at an infant stage. We want this parliament to have legislative powers which will bind on countries after they've ratified the protocol, and that parliament will be one parliament that will unite Africa.
All right, thank you very much. Of course, Stephen, that is Julius Malema there, the leader of the EFF, just talking about what transpired today, saying that they have asked the AU to also intervene into this matter. They say that they will want to reconvene much later this year, and they want these elections to be suspended until then.